Okay. So where was I? I was what?
The iceberg.
The iceberg, right. I was just, yes, but I've got to catch up with the recording. How do I slip in? I was saying that we are at a most extraordinary time in human transformation. And we have to ask ourselves, how does the universe contact us? How does the universe tell us what it needs from us at this time in our transformation? How does the universe contact us? What is heaven telling you now? Why were you born now? Why weren't you born 100 years from now or 100 years ago? Why are you part of this chaotic era of transformation? Why do you think so? I'm actually asking you that. Why do you think you were born now? Well, that's obviously, don't be vague. Put some meat on the bones. How? What?
I saw you. I'm a reluctant pioneer in the field of the internal fascial network, which turns out I teach people to be fascia whisperers with their own bodies, and it reflects the soul.
Bingo.
And it emits light, it transmits sound, and it's the most loving thing we have, which is our body architecture, and it's always working for us.
Right. Good.
Which is very difficult to explain.
That's right. Today. It won't be. It's difficult to explain because we haven't yet adapted the vocabulary that we need. But we are in the business now of adapting and adjusting a vocabulary that we need to get to the soul, to get to our... Part of what I have discovered is what makes it difficult to describe the workings of the invisible world is that we are not accustomed to trusting to identifying, to believing, to acknowledging that we have an energetic anatomical system. Something I identified 30 years ago. We're not even accustomed to doing that. We're not even accustomed to, you deal with your energetic anatomy system when you're sick, but you don't deal with it when you're well. You don't ever deal with your energy anatomy system when you're healthy. So you have no sense of how to make a decision in a business setting that says, if I make this decision, I will hemorrhage my energy from my solar plexus. You don't think that way. What you think is after you start hemorrhaging and you realize I have a bleeding ulcer, I wonder why I have a bleeding ulcer. Do you see what I'm saying? We've got to get to the point where, and we will, maybe not in our bodies, but in the next body we have, but where we start acknowledging the reality of our energetic anatomical system with equal precision as we do our physical anatomy system. And that's part of where we're going. And I absolutely, if you think about it, everything you value is invisible. Everything you value most belongs to the invisible world. Love, truth, compassion, all the things that actually make your life of value. Now, you may obviously value your finances, but if I said to you, would you rather your family live or $1 million? What do you want? You may want to say, but I think only a really horrible person would choose money over family. There are those who would. I won't mention any names, but you know exactly what I'm saying. Your values, the things that are of most importance, and in keeping with that, the things that are of most importance, the invisible things, are also of the nature of the soul. The nature of the soul, your intuitive system. These are also the powers you have that will keep you alive, that will heal you. What will heal you is everything that's in the invisible world has far more authority than anything that's chemical or financial. And that's the truth. And that is absolutely the truth. So where I want to go is I just want to share a little bit of my background and weave in a little bit of those kinds of stories of why this is important for me to share with you now. Because what's important for me is to get to a place where you take a look at your relationship to faith, your relationship to prayer, your relationship to the invisible world, your relationship to listening to your own inner self over your outer self. Because I have to believe that every single one of you is being directed at all times to do something of great value, except that I don't know that everybody gets what great value is. And in this past year, for example, I lost two of the most important people in my life. I lost Norm Shealy, and I lost my spiritual director, Tom, who was with me 2 hours every week for almost 30 years. Now that's a lot. And that's a lot when you are sharing your soul with someone and working through and he was a Jungian analyst, he was a theologian, and he was a psychologist. And I tell you how God put him in my life, because these are really important pieces for me. And I was in my mid-40s, and I was going through menopause. Who was I talking to at the table this morning about menopause? Right. Right. And but you know how the universe organizes things for you, and you don't realize you're being organized. So I go to a conference in Dingle, Ireland, and you never get that the universe has agendas built into agendas. You never get that. And this is where, like, heaven will use anything. You just have to trust. So I'm in this workshop in Dingle, and it's the cutest place God ever made. And when I go to conferences, as a rule, I don't go and attend the lectures of other people. I go and give my lecture and then evaporate, especially in Dingle, because it's got these cute shops. So, yeah, things are important. All right. So, but there was something about, I spotted this man, right? And then I'm walking past his lecture room, and all of a sudden I go like this. And I thought, what the hell? So I walk in, and as I walked past him, he was about to start speaking. As I walked past, I suddenly knew he had a heart attack. All right, now that's important because of the way I work. And the way I work is that told me my system was on. That told me, because normally I'm not on like that. I operate an ordinary mortal. But now my system was on, so I was on alert. He starts to speak. And I do not suffer from depression. That hasn't been one of my sufferings in this lifetime. And, but I was tumbling into depression. I was at that stage in my life where I realized I would never have children. It was too late to go back. I was in menopause. I was evaluating my life and how I'd spent my life. And I just felt very regretful that I'd spent my whole life in hotel rooms. And that's how it felt to me. Like, what a fucking waste of time my life had been. And that's how it felt. And so as I walked through Tom's energy, his whole thing just dropped in. I knew he had a heart attack. I knew he was Catholic. And that may not mean anything to you, but it meant something to me. And that we understood each other mythologically. The God myth was there. So then I sat down, and I didn't even intend to go to his lecture. So then as he started to lecture, it was about the fear of middle age. And I thought, I don't have that. Well, maybe I do. Right. So he starts talking about the fear of aging and the passage of that. And I wasn't even able to articulate that. I would never even have thought that I had such a thing. Yes? And I thought, where's that coming from? And that's not, but as he was talking, I realized that's exactly how I was feeling. That I'd wasted my whole life. And the dismal life of living in a hotel room. And I hated my life, believe it or not. I wanted to go away and never come back. So at the end, I thought I needed to work with him as a therapist because I needed help, big, huge, not little. So when I went up to him, I said, "Are you taking any more clients?" And he had said he was just recovering from a heart attack. And I'm not a selfish person, I promise you. And he said, "I'm recovering from a heart attack." And I was like, I fucking know. But I didn't say that. I know when to be quiet. And he said, and I'm going to spend a month in Ireland with my wife. And I was like, "Oh, are you taking clients?" But I didn't. I said, "Okay." And he said, "I'll call you." But you know what I said to him? I said, "Dr. Lavin, I am going to sit on your front porch until you say yes." I said, "I don't beg anyone for anything. I'm begging you." I said, "My life's on the line here." It's how bad it was. Okay. So he took me on as a client. It's when I started my work with archetypes, and it's so interesting because at the same time, shortly before that, I started to do readings with Norm, and I could spot archetypes, and I thought, what are these patterns? What are these patterns? And a whole different dimension of the universe opened to me, which is something I want to talk to you about later, maybe, whatever, is that the way the universe reveals itself to you is stage by stage. It is truly stage by stage. It was with me. And I am an avid student of God. And I have no distractions in my life. So it is truly stage by stage by stage. And everything in your life is included in your education, including your loneliness, including your heartache, including your loss. Every single thing is essential to that education. Absolutely everything. And you may not know it at the time. You may not get it at the time, but it is. And in some way, it is. So that was how I met Tom. And I began my journey with Tom. And to say that was a big part of my life is an understatement. Because through Tom and with Tom, and because Tom was Catholic, a theologian, doctor of theology, doctor of psychology, and a Jungian analyst out of Switzerland. And he had been in the seminary 1 week before ordination. And he left to marry Mary Ellen, who had been a nun. Okay. But I found this when I encountered Teresa of Avila. For me, I needed someone who understood a mystical experience, the size of which I never anticipated happening. And it was Tom that I went to. I was always with Tom. I don't know if I can get through this today. Whew. But I was always with Tom. Ah. Whew. But at any rate, it was Tom who I knew would understand that I had a profound encounter with something holy. It was Tom. And so I clung to him because I said to him, something profound has happened to me. And you're the only one I can tell. I couldn't bear to have someone joke about it, or I couldn't bear it. I absolutely couldn't bear, because I knew that I was even willing to let go of everything I owned. Because I was telling my editor that I would let go of the book I was writing, because I was now going to write Entering the Castle, based on hearing a voice that I knew was St. Teresa of Avila. And I said, and I was willing, if they had to call in my advance, that I would sell my house and get rid of it, but don't take Teresa. And I had to work with Tom. And I said to Tom, I'm going to tell you, and only you, every single thing I experience. And only you. Because I can only tell someone once. I can't exaggerate. I can't, if you repeat something twice, you'll exaggerate it. You'll change it. I said, you're the only one I can tell. I will only tell you once. And that's what made Tom and I so close. Because it was in that transition that I began to report experiences the likes of which I never had in my life. My dreams became cosmic. I began to have dreams in which I was traveling through the galaxy and then returned to my body. And then they all stopped when I finished Entering the Castle. And then I said to Tom, it's over. I said, how am I going to live now? It's over. It's over. And I actually felt as if I had been thrown back to the earth in this physical, like as if I was a dense clay again. And I said, how am I going to live down here? It took me a year to recover from losing Teresa from that. It took me a year. And only Tom would understand that. At any rate, Tom passed this year, 10 days after Norm. So I lost these two back to back. And that was like having a right and a left arm cut off. Right. Now, all of you know what grief is and all of that. But that's not my point here. My point is that just when I thought, well, now I'm going to just throw myself off a bridge. The universe does a very strange thing. And one day I was, what do you call that thing? Sifting through YouTube? Searching. Whatever. But I came across a near-death experience, and you probably heard me tell the story of Nancy. But it was Nancy's near-death experience, that there was something authentic about her near-death experience. And what her near-death experience did, by the way, she's in the hospital now, fighting for her life again. But it was her near-death experience that made me it tied all my work together, because by the time I got to her near-death experience, I had come to the very same conclusions about what happens to us after we die, about how important every thought we have is. I came to those conclusions because of my work with you, because of readings, because of my intuitive, because of Teresa of Avila, because of my journey, and it matched up with everything she had to say, which is why I was so ecstatic. I know it, Nancy, I know I found this out my way, but this only validated my own life's journey. And it made it it felt so beautiful to have someone in the moment from the other side say, it is like that. It is like that. And so the things I want to say to you about the importance of every thought you have, of every word that's in you, of every single perception you have, is I feel like it's not just coming from me, but it's coming from your bio-spiritual anatomy. It is the way things are now. So I wanted to talk about that, but this is where we're at. This is where I'm at. So where do I want to begin? I'm going to start with this building and work my way up. How's that sound? Nancy, by the way, had a bleeding in the brain. Yeah, so she had just had brain surgery 2 days ago. So, okay. It's been a hell of a year, guys, right?
Yes.
You know, I want you to think about your own building as I describe this, because it's really important. I think that what is happening in our world is really this extraordinary transition that we are going from being 5 sensory to multi-sensory. That we are leaving behind mythologies of heaven and God in all the religions and moving into an understanding of the nature of God as love, light, and law. Now, those sound like just words to you, but you have to break them down to really get what I'm telling you. And that's the nature of God are the laws of the universe. Cause and effect, action and reaction, magnetic attraction, coincidence, synchronicity. Every single law of science is an expression of how God works. If I put that in slow motion, you have to realize you are using God with every choice you make. You are actually using the nature of God. You're actually relying on the nature of God every time you use alchemy. Every time we do anything in science. Anytime you engage even the word promise. Do you promise? I promise. When you make the word promise, you are saying that this cause and effect is something I seal. And you're using divine power in that by using that word. A contract, right? A covenant. Every law, we expect laws to hold the universe together. The mystical laws hold the fabric of creation together. A miracle is when heaven bends the laws of creation just for you. Now, the nature of the universe is totally impersonal. So the laws of gravity, the laws of this, if we all jump, we are all going to fall. But it is also incredibly intimate. Incredibly intimate, which means that for some reason, and I don't get it, every word you say, every choice you make is heard. It's recorded. It matters. I don't get how it matters or why it matters, but it matters. And in all the life reviews, people have, and this, I think this is fascinating. The people are having incredible numbers of near-death experiences, right? Now, obviously, we're having more near-death experiences because people are having medical interventions, right? But here's something I find absolutely fascinating, and that's that years and years ago when I was engaged to a guy that did a lot of the near-death research, I was a serial engager. It's just, I just couldn't stand it, the thought of marriage. But I mean, it's not like you're going to be here no. All right. Oh, I know. But Ken Ring did a lot of the research in near-death experience. He's a great guy, wonderful guy. And so I met a lot of people who had near-death experiences. And the pattern back then was that they died and then they were rebooted. And people claimed to see tunnels and light, and they experienced love, and they saw their loved ones who had gone ahead of them. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Today, more and more people, a majority of people who have near-death experiences are atheists or agnostics. And I said to Nancy, who's my anchor in the near-death world, and I said, it seems to me, because she does all these meetings with near-deathers, she goes to those, and I said, I swear to God, I think you agnostics are getting drafted. You're getting chosen. You're getting selected to have near-death experiences. And she said, I think so too. And not only that, it seems like they're getting drafted because heaven wants them to come back with a message that there is life after death, and that the message is every single thing you do matters, which is what we're going to emphasize here. Every single thing you think, everything you say matters, and all the things you think matter does not. Do not. The things you think are so important that are actually draining you, that you think are so significant, have no significance. Everything you think has no significance is all that matters. So here's an example. One woman said, what's very typical is that people have these life reviews, and they're shown all these pixels of their life. And every single one of them said that in the pixel, they see their life and they see this moment. And in this moment, they actually relive it as if they are right there. And then they relive it as if Susan had been my lawyer. And I said to her, to use Eric's example, I love your blouse. In that moment, I would also become Susan and experience feeling good because I had paid her a compliment. And I would feel Susan feeling good because I'd paid her. I would become one with every single moment in that. Am I communicating that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Similarly, if I'd said to her, are you wearing that blouse again? That's your bad luck blouse. I don't feel safe going to court in that blouse. I would be shown that, and I would be shown how that made her feel, and I would feel what she felt hearing her client say, oh, good, now you put a pox on our case. I'll never win my divorce now. Okay, all of that, every single one of these people. This is so important for us to get, because we don't realize that we are going to be held accountable for every comment we make to someone. Every single one. Every single one. So like Nancy tells the story, and maybe you heard her say it in a class. She said to her kid sister, she dismissed her kid sister deliberately, consciously, with get out of this room, and she wanted to hurt her feelings. And she was shown that she did succeed in hurting her feelings. And how much it hurt her feelings. And she said she never even thought about it after that moment until the near-death experience. And this woman said, another woman said, she had in her near-death experience, she wasn't shown the things she would have assumed she would be shown. She wasn't shown that she got a PhD. Like, where's my doctorate? Nothing. The universe could care less. Where are all my books? Where's this? Where's that? Nothing. What you are shown is what you've contributed to the well-being of another soul, or what you've done to hurt another soul. Because what have all the teachers told us again and again? All is one. So what you do to one, you're doing to everybody. Which brings me to this building here, which is that consciousness really is about us making our way up to where we can get to a place where we can possibly grapple with the higher truth that this isn't a world of energy, it's a world of grace. It's a world of grace. That we aren't, this is what Jesus dealt with, this is what Buddha dealt with. They understood that this was all grace instead of empty space. That what they were engaging in was that they could utilize the grace available in the atmosphere that was in fact the presence of God in every single molecule. And they could utilize that and just direct it into a person, which is how they healed, which is, okay? So, I have questions for you to start with. I would love you to ask yourself, what is it that you're being directed in yourself now to prepare yourself, that instructions that you're receiving now, intuitive instructions that are different from anything you were told last year? Like last year, I was not interested in writing anything about my own life. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And this year, I can't stop. And it's very different. This year I feel, and I don't know if I'm going to die soon or not. I mean, I'm telling you the truth. I don't know if I need to empty myself and just make way. I have no idea. But I feel like I just need to let people know about the experiences that I've had and how heaven has kind of always been there. Because if it's always been there for me, it's always been there for you. It's always been there for me, for you. Always. And I feel like, I tell you, I feel like all I want to do is get to my desk and pour this out. And so I did not have that instruction last year. Not at all. And when I get home, I'm going to be recording a version of this the first week of April. And maybe it's just time. Maybe that's all, But I'm telling you, every one of you has some kind of instruction, some kind of intuitive instruction going on now that you did not have last year. I promise you that. That's number one. So I want you to just take note. Like, what are you being told now that you weren't told last year? And don't make it just about your work because you're so enamored with your work. What are you being told about as a person that you need for your health, for yourself, for your well-being? Okay? And sometimes your instructions are that you have to take care of somebody. That you need to complete a task of taking care of someone. What I want you to do is lower your sights because of being Western people. This is what's true. In our first floor our values are very productive. This is a very low floor. And the first floor of our life is a very productive, puritanical, financial, practical one. And that's how you expect God to behave. When you say a prayer on the first floor of your life, you expect the prayer to come in that kind of package. You expect the answer to that prayer to be very practical, to make sure it benefits you, you don't lose any money, that you don't lose anything, that you are not humiliated. So you expect a certain kind of response in that first floor. That's the package you expect God to come in. It's one of the reasons people don't heal, is because of how they expect God to come in that first floor. Because you're so afraid. You're so terrified. So this is classic first floor life. The answer has to look safe to you, or you won't go there. You won't go there. Are you arguing with me, yeah? Anyone? Yeah, don't go there. All right. So, what does safe look like to you? Put it down. What does safe look like to you? And you don't realize that when you actually answer this question, you're actually saying, this is how I need my world to stay intact, and this is how I need my world organized. Do you need a notebook? Do we have any extra notebook and pen? Well, look who arrived. Oh, sorry. Does anyone else need a notebook and pencil? Eric, do you need a? No. You just don't want to do it. I'm not letting you get away with it. All right. Okay. Okay. And the reason I'm gonna really go at it hard here in your first floor is because it's the first floor of our lives that's gonna get changed the most. So I really, 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 now, you are feeling your first floor getting changed. That is happening, and it's happening to everybody. But this is where we'll do our best to try and keep our first floor of our lives and our second floor as familiar. But here's the thing that's the truth. And I say truth meaning it applies to everybody. In these next years ahead, so much of what we recognize as familiar is going to change. The boundaries of countries, maybe currency, maybe the governments as we know them. A lot of what we have been accustomed to is going to change. Okay. And it just is what is. It is what is. And I think it's not a matter of even who's in office. I think it was scheduled to. I think it's scheduled to. And the reason is, come up here. Come up here. I want you up here. I want you up on a higher floor where you're capable of looking at what's required, not from the position of, on the first floor, you're always looking at, well, who's at fault? Who did this? Get your eyes out of there. That's the way ordinary mortals look. Stop it. If you get up here, you look through the lens of evolution, of what is required at this stage of human evolution, which is a whole different perspective. Has nothing to do with fault lines. It has to do with what's required. And up here, from this window, see that window? You see the universe. You see the galaxies. You see a galactic community. You can't see that from the first floor. You see galactic technology. You see a very different relationship to energy, to time, to space, to a technology that doesn't exist on the first floor. Up there, you see a very different mythology. A very different mythology that doesn't have a God that looks like us. No such thing as a God that looks like this. No such thing as a God that deals in real estate. No such thing. No such thing. None. No such thing as a God that has an earth calendar. Well, that's my birthday. Stop it. No such thing. Instead, you get to a place where as you are in the top, high altitude, and you look out the window, all you see is this vast universe of light and love, and you realize that's the nature of the divine. A divine that travels the galaxies. And then you look at your body and you realize your body is made of that. Your soul is made of that. You have the galaxy in you. This is a high voltage mystical truth. You can't see that from the first floor, where you, on the first floor, insist on a calendar that says this is the birthday of God. Are you bloody nuts? You can have it if you want it. Are you crazy? But you could be. And that God looks like us, a white man. Are you nuts? But go right ahead. You need a good old-fashioned mystical experience. I need to yank you out of your body and toss you in the universe and say, where am I? Where am I? And have a guide come up to you and say, yeah, where are you? You're home. Now get back in your body and snap out of it. How's that sound? Now, I know every one of you has an assignment. One of the assignments is larger than life. The part of you that's larger than this time and space. How big are you? How grand, how powerful are you? How much of you is anchored in this moment? Wow. Why do you think you were? Here's a question I want you to answer, but I want you to answer this one in a group with your wild ass imagination. I mean, a wild ass, turn on wild ass, WA channel. Wild ass imagination. Why were you born now? And don't just go to job, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. That's just the first floor. Why were you born now? Of all times, why now?